Shalom Aleichem, good morning, welcome to our viewers on Torah Anytime. I want to dedicate this year for the Atzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, the Refuah Shlema of Miriam Bas Leah, and Malka Chana Bas Beila Besoch Sh'ar Choilei Yisroel. Just want to announce that in Hashem tomorrow, Shabbos HaGodol, I'll have the drasha of Shabbos HaGodol. I'm speaking in Bnei Yeshivas, but it's in Hebrew. It's halachos lemaise in many different inyanim. Inyan de yoyma next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days. But again, it's going to be halacha lemaise, and in Hebrew. Today we're speaking about Parshas Metzora, and obviously Inyan de yoyma Pesach. So we find in the Parsha Nigei Batim, my house gets tzaras. It's a very strange thing. Why does the Kodesh Baruch Hu give tzaras to the house? So Rashi brings from the Medrash, B'soira ilahem. It's a great thing. Really great. You have to destroy the house, first demolition, and then you have to rebuild it. The expense involved, the hassle, the dust. Who wants to be involved in renovations? And it always costs you double, at least, than what you expected. What a great B'soira. Gewaldig, really looking forward to it. So why is it? Because when you break the house, you'll find all the treasures that the Amorites hid there. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu can't send me a check without having to go through all the renovation process.
Did it ever happen?
What's that?
Did it ever happen?
Question. Good question. Some say it never happened, and it never will. The Rambam says it never will happen again. So first of all, it's only for back then when they came into Eretz Yisrael. And according to the opinion that it happened once, and that's it. It's not happening again.
It happened one time or one house?
One time, when they came into Eretz Yisrael, there was this issue. I don't know how many houses were inflicted with tzaras. But if it did happen, it only happened when they came into Eretz Yisrael, never to be repeated. But the Medrash takes us to a different place. Vayikra Rabba, Parsha Yud Zayin, or Zayin. The Medrash says this tzaras of the house refers to a nevuah of the destruction of Beis HaMikdash. Totally not what we understood. So then for sure it happened. Not once, but twice. How does that work? At the end of the nevuah, Kodesh Baruch Hu will rebuild his house. The Medrash takes the psukim that discuss this and says this is talking about Beis HaMikdash. Bebeis Eretz Achuzasrem, that's Beis HaMikdash. And the Medrash brings psukim to support this interpretation. Uva asher lo habayis, and the person who owns the house, who is that? That's the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Vehigid lakoyen, who is the kohen? Kohen is Yirmiyah. Pasuk says, Min hakohanim asher ba'anatot. Yirmiyah was the kohen. Kenega nira li babayis. Oh, I see a lesion in the house. What's that? That refers to avodah zarah. Vetziva hakohen upinu es habayis. That is, take everything out. That's when the goyim came and they took all the treasures of the house of Hashem and took it away. Venitet es habayis. Break the house, and then everybody goes away to Galus. So what's going to be? The pasuk says, "Velakhu avanim acherus." They take other stones and rebuild, as the pasuk says in Ishaya. Therefore, Ko amar Hashem, Hineni yisad betzion aven even boichan. I'm going to rebuild it again. Gewaldik. But back to our first question: if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give us all that money, can we just win the lottery, even though we don't play the lottery? It's a waste of money. Can HaKadosh Baruch Hu send us the check? Why do you need to go through this whole thing? Rabbi Yitzchak Karo. Who's that? Rabbi Yitzchak Karo. That's the uncle of Rabbi Yosef Karo, the Beis Yosef. He raised him. He raised the Beis Yosef. And he wrote a sefer on the Torah called Toldos Yitzchak. And in Toldos Yitzchak, he has a very original perush, and he explained. The reason for tzaras is because when you have to break the house, you will find out on what foundation this house was built. The goyim back then would build a house with all kinds of avodah zarah ceremonies. You have to sanctify the place. As opposed to what we do when we do hanachas even apina, when you lay the cornerstone. What do? Shirim v'tishboiches to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, davening, divrei Torah. You want to make sure that the house is built on good foundations, on solid ones. So that's the reason he says, Klal Yisrael, when they came in, will find tzaras. This way you will find out which house was built on avodah zarah. Who was frum when they built their house, and that house has to be broken down. So he explains, what's the remez here to us? Again, we said it's never going to happen again. So what's the remez to us? The Torah is eternal. When you start something, you have to include HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your business. You have to include HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that's why he says people write B'siyata Dishmaya, Basad, the top of a letter, any paper that they write, Bezrat Hashem, B'siyata Dishmaya, he writes Bechol Drachecha Da'ehu. Instead of Basad that rewrites, he writes Badad, Bechol Drachecha Da'ehu. Know HaKadosh Baruch Hu in all your ways. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to merit Klal Yisrael and to remove the spirit of impurity from Eretz Yisrael, and that's why when they came, they will find out those homes that were built on impure names, they will have to be destroyed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will remove impurities from Eretz Yisrael, and he will rebuild it again and include the spirit of Tahara and Kedusha to Eretz Yisrael. A Rosh Yeshiva once came to Reb Chaim Volozhin. Reb Chaim Volozhin's yeshiva was very successful. And this Rosh Yeshiva wasn't so successful, wasn't attracting new Talmidim. So he came to Reb Chaim Volozhin and he asked, Rebbe, what's the secret of your success? Everybody wants to come to your yeshiva. So Reb Chaim Volozhin asked him, tell me, when you did the Anachas Even Pina, did the laying of the cornerstone, what did you do? He said, what do you mean what you did? Sudas Mitzvah. Parties, festive meal, we drank, l'chaim, we danced. It was gewaldig. Kiddush Hashem. So Reb Chaim Volozhin said, it's quite different than the one that we did. The night before the Anachas Even Pina, I came to the place where the shiva is going to be built, and I didn't go to sleep the whole night. I stood there, and I davened to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I cried. Now what you did is very good, but it could be that there's a difference when you build a place when the Anachas Even Pina is all about dancing and drinking and eating rogalach, or, davening and tears. It could be that makes a little difference in how the building will evolve and the success that you will have. Rabbi say, question, not going to get anything we discussed until now. Can it be, we all are praying, that we will be able to go to Yerushalayim, in Metzora Hashem, soon to bring Korban Pesach? Still time. Can it be that somebody travels to Yerushalayim, not necessarily in Erev Pesach, in general, and because he goes into Yerushalayim, he gets lashes? Lashes. He didn't make a vow, I'm never going to go there. He didn't take a shvua. Everybody is healthy. It's not that the doctor told him don't go. He will get lashes for entering Yerushalayim. Can it be such a thing? A Tameh can go into Yerushalayim? Not Beis HaMikdash. Yerushalayim, he enters, take out the strap, and start working. When does this happen?
He feels in Nidui Cherem or something not to enter Yerushalayim. There's
no Nidui, no Cherem, no Nedarim, and no Shavuos. And he feels 100%.
Erev Yom Kippur, when you do sometimes people do last.
Because two people will enter. He will get Malkos, and the guy next to him doesn't. Same time. The answer is Psachim, Daf Samech Zayin, Paskins in the Rambam, Bias HaMikdash, Perek Gimel, Alocha Ches. A Metzora that goes into Yerushalayim gets Malkos. No Nadarim, no Shavuos, and Erev Yom Kippur, and Erev Pesach. Can it be that there's a person who davens every single day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please send me tzaras? We thought tzaras is a terrible thing. Who would yearn, like to have tzaras? Can it be a person davens, I want to have tzaras?
He knows he's going to get rewarded because you're going to break down the house.
That's only tzaras abatim. He wants to have tzaras in his body. And there's no reward there. So you break the body and you find treasures? It's a chiddush. What's that? Do tshuva, it's also a kapara.
It's a direct kapara, you know why it's caused.
I want an indirect kapara. Who wants to deal with tzaras? Tzaras means you have to be secluded. You can't learn with your Rebbe. Chavrusa, it's terrible.
How many days you have to be secluded for?
Depends how long the tzaras stays. Who wants that? You want to go to yeshiva and learn. You want to have your chavrusa. You can't. To be away from the house? Who would like to, anyone here would like tzaras? A person's the daven every single day. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please send me tzaras. Can it be? The answer is yes, it can be. Bechoros, daf lamed daled amud aleph and lamed daled amud beis. A person who had baheres. Baheres is one of the lesions described in the Torah. One is not allowed to cut off the baheres, so when the Kohen sees him, he says, oh, you're cured, everything's fine. You're not allowed to do that. If it goes away, great, you're tao. If it's still there, tameh. If unintentionally it got cut off, it's also okay. The person doesn't have it anymore, he is taho. but one is not allowed to cut it off. And if he didn't listen to us, and intentionally he took it off, Rabbi Eliezer says we penalize him. We told you not to. The Torah says don't take it off, and you did. You will not be tahor until you get tzaras for the second time. I guess he wants to speak, he's going to say a little lashon hara. Only when he gets tzaras for the second time around, and he is pure from that second lesion, then we go retroactively and we say, okay, now you're also pure from the first one. Why? Because then it's as if revealed from Shamayim that there's rachamim on him, and if this first lesion was still here, he would be pure. So now it comes the second one, and he takes away the impurity of the first and the second one. Chachamim say, it depends. Chachamim agree with Rabbi Eliezer that if the second one comes, it takes away the impurity of the first one, but only if it was a small one. If it was less than the shear of a gris when he took it off, then it will work. But if at the time that he cut it off, it was more than a gris or more, then even when the second tzaras comes, the second ba'eres, he will not become pure when it goes away. Why? Penalty from Chachamim. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, a person like this who intentionally cut off his ba'eret has to get up every morning and daven HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please send me tzaras, otherwise I will always remain tameh.
It's not something like in either Tanit or Moditatan of one that if he gets it, he can be with the wife or not with the klal, or with the klal not with the wife, and he may have an interest to do it. One of them.
How does that answer our question?
In the sense, he may want to have the sarat, so not to be with. No, later.
Find me the source.
According to Chachamim, you're going to be pure?
If it was more than a gris at the time that I cut it off, a penalty of Chachamim. Never. En lo tahara oy lamis. He stays tameh. If this happened when he was 13 in a day, and he lives at 120, that's 107 years of tumah. And if he's lucky and he lives more than 120 years, it's more. So this is one answer to our first question. But now a new question, similar. Who can never become, not this answer, who can never become pure from his tzaras? And we're not talking about a person, according to Chachamim, who intentionally cut off his bayret. A different answer. Can it be a person who has tzaras and can never become pure? So he travels to the right neighborhood. What's the big deal? A Mishnah, Maseches Negaim. The Mishnah says, Perek Yudalet Pasuk Tes. Part of the process of purification is you got to take from the blood of the Korban Asham and sprinkle it when? Where, I'm sorry? On the earlobe, on the right earlobe. And on the right thumb and on the right toe. And what if he doesn't have a right earlobe? What if he doesn't have a right thumb or a big toe? He is stuck. Says Tanakama in the Mishnah, En lo tahara oy lamis, can never become pure. Rabbi Eliezer says, so put in the place where these things used to be. And Rabbi Shimon says, if you put it on the left side, you're yoitze. But according to Tanakama, that's the answer to our question. He can never become pure again. Can it be a Kohen came, kosher Kohen, and he looks at the house, yep, tummy. And we will say, and yet it's tau. Everything goes by the Kohen. He looks and he says, this is tameh. And we'll say, this is tau. How can it be? 4 possible answers. Can it be?
So the Kohen says tahor?
The Kohen says it's tameh. And we say, no, it's tau. Another Mishnah in Negaim.
The Kohen is a cotton.
No, he's 13 in a day. He's 82 years old. He's kosher. And by the way, the Minchas Chinuch says a Kohen Kotan is also allowed to paskin here. Because you don't need to tell the Kohen to be Talmid Chochem. If he's not a Talmid Chochem, he goes with Talmid Chochem and he tells him what to say and he says it. So it's as if it just goes by the Kohen. But if the Kohen, our Kohen, is not such a big Talmid Chochem and he went by himself, and he didn't know a Mishnah in Negaim in Perek Yud Beis, Mishnah Aleph, and he didn't know these 3 things, and we'll add something from the Minchas Chinuch. If it's a goyish house, it doesn't make a difference how many times he's going to say tameh, it remains tau. If it's a round house, doesn't have 4 walls, it is tau. It doesn't attract tumas, tzaras nega, tzaras batim. Or if it's triangle, it doesn't work. Only if it has 4 walls. And the Minchas Chinuch is mechadesh that if the Kohen saw the lesion through a binoculars or through a mirror, it doesn't work, it's not tameh, and the house is tahor, even though he said it's going to be tameh. We're in the mode of riddles. Can it be a person says, I don't want to do the savera? No, I'm not going to do the savera. And because he says, I don't want to do the savera, he just transgressed an avera. I don't want to do the savera. Oh, you just do the avera. Sounds very stupid. I don't want to do the savera. Oh, so you said that. So now you just did an avera. I don't want to say Lashon Hara Ruva. I'm not going to say it. What does that mean? That you have a lot to say. Says the Shmir HaSalashon, that's Avak Lashon Hara. And because you're saying, I don't want to do it, so you just did an avera called Avak Lashon Hara. Let's move to Pesach. We all know the Haggadah shel Pesach by heart. Can you find me 8 different professions in the Haggadah shel Pesach? Different. Shoichet. Where is he? Haggadah at the end. Shoichet, slaughter. Great. That's 1 out of 8. What does that mean? How many points you get? I don't know. You do the math. 8 professions. Roy Eitzon. Does the words appear in the Haggadah? I'm not talking about a person who that was his profession. A description of a certain profession mentioned in the Haggadah. 8 different ones. No? I know it's been a year since you said it last time, but...
Is the Hakam a profession for Russia?
I hope not. I really hope a Rasha is not a profession. I'd like a Chacham to be. Then I can strive to be in that profession. What's that? Chacham, since when a Chacham is a job?
Builder.
What does it say, builder in the Haggadah? It describes that they built. Does it say boine? I want the name of the profession.
A teacher.
What does it say, a teacher? Moire. Chacham, what does it say?
You got to do Levincha. You have to...
It's Vehigadata?
Yeah.
That's the name of a profession? But you're very, very close. What is Vehigadata called? It's one of the Simanim of the Seder. What is it called? Magid. What's a Magid? A Darshan. A person who goes from place to place that gives Darshas. Magid is 1, Shoichet is 2, we have 6 more. Avadim. I hope it's not a profession. I think it's a torture most of the time. Koirech, bookbinder. Oirech is not. Koirech is. I thought you said Koirech. Oh. But where does it say Oirech? Shulchan Oirech. Can we qualify that? Rabbi said, can we qualify it? And we have 9. But since it's a new one, you get much more than the quarter point you got before. Oirech, an editor. And a koirech is a bookbinder. What else?
What's an oirech?
Oirech is an editor. Orech is an editor. Koirech is a bookbinder. Who else? Baruch shoimer havtachaso leYisrael. What's a shoimer? A guard. Who else?
What is it?
A guard. A shoimer. Shomer. They put on Klal Yisrael sarei misim. What does that mean? A sar. What's a sar? A minister. Is there any melech mentioned? About 1,000,000 times. Baruch atah Hashem melech ha'olam, and many other times melech, King Paro. Lehavdil. Shaliach. Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't send a shaliach. No, he went by himself. What's a shaliach? A messenger. A delivery boy. And the last one was maybe a little harder than the others. V'rav kema shene'emar revava kitzemach hasade nezatich. V'rav, Rav, a rabbi, another profession. We have 9 with the addition of the editor. Rav Yehuda, the noisen bahem simanim, and the seminar is, how do you remember the 10 plagues? The tzachadash be'achav. Tell me, is it so difficult to remember 10 different names of plagues that you have to give me a siman? Every 6-year-old and 7-year-old, when they sing it in Gan or whatever they say in Cheder, they know it by heart. So Yehuda has to give a siman because, maybe you're going to forget the simanim. You're going to forget the names of the plagues.
I have to tell you that's the order that it should be.
And I don't know the order? Sing it and you know the order.
I see it, but people who don't know it, they...
Why would I think, maybe Arov came before Dam. Why would I think that?
It's another way to be able to, part of learning.
That's good when you have 50 different things, but you have only 10. Every little kid knows it by heart. Didn't your kids used to sing it?
So even something small like that, that's important to know that you can find different ways in order to be able to remember something well.
You're right, but you didn't give me a source. Moedik a source from the Halachos, from Haggadah, Maimonios, and the Ritva. Rabbi Yehuda was afraid that you're going to look at the chapter in Tehillim, 2 chapters in Tehillim, and you're going to get confused. Because David HaMelech wrote it not according to the order. In Tehillim Perek Ayin Ches, the first pasuk describes Dam, and then it jumps to Arov. Arov is the second one? Arov is what? It's the fourth. And then it goes back to Tzfardeh. Then it goes back to Arbe. It jumps all the way there. Then it goes to Barad. Then it goes to Dever. Totally out of whack. Tehillim Kuf Hey, 105. Again, David HaMelech describes the Makos, and he starts with Choshech, the 9th one. Then it goes back to Dam, the first one. Then Tzfardeh, second one. Then Arov, the 4th. Then it jumps to Barad, and then it goes back to Arbe. What's going on? So in order for you not to get confused, Rabbi Yehuda would give simanim. Asks the Chassam Sofer. So why did David HaMelech write it in Tehillim out of order? Why can't David HaMelech didn't know the simanim of Rabbi Yehuda? He doesn't remember it from Sefer Shemois. Why did he write it out of order? Chiddush. Says the Chassam Sofer, there's a sakana to mention the 10 plagues according to the right order. David HaMelech didn't want you to say it in the right order. There's a sakana, I wanted to save you. Which is not the case on Leila Seder. Leila Seder, it's Leil Shimurim, it's a night which is guarded, you're protected from all elements, and therefore you can say it this night right. But you're not going to remember, you're saying Tehillim all the time. 6 months, we didn't stop saying Tehillim. We're saying Tehillim all the time. Maybe you're going to get used to the Seder mentioned by David HaMelech. Says the Buddha, don't forget, Datzach, Adash, Be'achav. Chiddush. So therefore, says the Chassam Sofer, when you're learning with kids, you're teaching them, only give them the simin, the tzach hadash be'achav. As long as you don't mention the name of the makkah, you're good. But it's a sakana once you do. So when you teach kids, you only teach them the tzach hadash be'achav and tell them this is what you're going to use on Leila Seder. It's a tremendous chiddush. The bigger chiddush is, there's one of his descendants of the Chassam Sofer, the Imrei Sofer. He brings the Melandim in Talmud Torah, can teach the kids the names. You don't have to go only with simanim, you can say the actual names of the makos. Because Kevan Dedashu Barabim Shomer Psaim Hashem. When people do something a lot, even though there's an element of sakana, Kodesh Baruch Hu watches those who are ignorant in the matter, Shomer Psaim Hashem, and therefore one can do it. So Lemaisa we find 2 different reasons for our question. Why did Rabbi Yehuda give simanim? Either that you shouldn't get confused, or because there's an inyan of sakana.
Why would there be an inyan of sakana?
B'derech min hadrachim be'ofen min ha'ofanim. We don't know why. Something of segula that is an element of sakana. When you mention it, that's the Haggadah Maimonios. It's one of the Rishonim. Such a tremendous chiddush. Shimon HaRabbi said, "Ayari mumchim." A question. There's an 8-year-old kid, great kid. He already knows how to say the Haggadah and to understand and to listen. The grandparents want the parents to send this 8-year-old to spend Leila Seder with them, because otherwise they're going to be by themselves. Does that work also for a grandfather?
Yes.
Beautiful. So the grandfather says, I want to have Simchas Yontif. We're going to be so sad sitting here by ourselves, and we're asking you to send your little kid to us. The family only has 1 child. But the father says, I want to fulfill your life comes first. It's very nice to be a nice guy, to be a mensch, and to give others a mitzvah. But I have the mitzvah. Kodesh Baruch Hu commanded me, say this to your son, and I want to fulfill this. He's in a different town. It's not shaykh to invite these old people over. It's not shaykh to go to them. It's either or. Do I keep my son here, and just 2 minutes before Yontif call my parents and say, have a nice Yontif, but Motzei Yontif will come to visit you, but you're not going to get to spend time with your grandson. Or we say, Kibudav, we'll send him to the old man, and we're going to be by ourselves.
We don't say honoring the grandfather is honoring the father. By honoring the father of the father, we honor the father. So,
but I want to do a different mitzvah. The Torah commanded me here, I have a mitzvah in my hands. How can I give it away? The son is here. How can I send him away? I'm pushing off the mitzvah.
That's also teaching the son.
To push away mitzvahs.
No, you're teaching him to do the mitzvah, kibbud. Come.
But what about the mitzvah present right now? Kibbud Av is when the Av is present. If he's in a different town, Bichlal is something to talk about. I think we once mentioned the Machne Chaim and others.
So it says, "V'yigato levincha b'yamahu."
No.
Levincha means your son.
So I have to keep him.
So you have to keep him.
Don't send him to the old man.
Right, exactly.
Anyone disagrees? Or everyone agrees? Strong coalition. We're keeping.
Without obligation on the father also.
But right now, what obligation is in front of me? Why can't I do kibbutz av tomorrow? A different kibbutz av. I'll go over and I'll give him a nice whatever left over the matzahs that I have, if he likes them. How can you push? Oh, you have a mitzvah in your hand. Says, I'm getting rid of it. Isn't it a disgrace to the mitzvah?
But he certainly is father.
I was thinking maybe that this is a fulfillment.
You want to keep him or not? Keeping him. Strong coalition.
But he's right? It's not a question of only of kavod. He brings the matzah tomorrow, but
Who says I'm bringing the tzar to my father? Maybe my father wants to be mitzvah on his own. Did I say to him, Abba, I want to cause you tzar? I just want to do a mitzvah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded me, "V'yigarta le'bincho," to your son. My mitzvah. And if my father gets upset that I do other mitzvahs, so I should not do them. What's the difference between this mitzvah and others? You want to keep him or not?
You do a mitzvah.
No, you send it to the grandfather.
Send,
What is that?
He says you want to send him to the grandfather. Who agrees with him?
You can do a mitzvah by Shaliyah. The mitzvah to teach your son. So that's what people, how many people actually teach their children the whole Torah? People send them to Haggadah. They're going to ready to do Shaliyah.
So Sunday morning you can appoint somebody to put the tefillin instead of you, for a shaliach?
But that's not a physical act, but for teaching, yes, you can.
You want to say something?
Ask such a silly question. Wouldn't ask a question if it's not right.
I'm not sure I followed. Again.
Wouldn't ask a question.
You wouldn't ask a question?
You would.
Yeah?
If it would be.
So simple.
Yeah.
But I don't know how simple it is. He says, send him to the grandparents, and he says, keep him home. So apparently it's not so silly.
He's a son of the grandparents anyway.
Is he? He's viewed as a son. So they will fulfill the mitzvah. They will. But what about the father who says, I have a mitzvah in my hands? I have to push it away? Isn't that disgraceful to the mitzvah? Kodesh Baruch Hu said, you do it. I'm going to say to Kodesh Baruch Hu, do me a favor. I know how to run my mitzvahs, and I have other things better than teaching my son. Let my father do it. Who says that that's the right prioritization?
It's a double mitzvah. He's mechabed his father. His father he's not losing out on the mitzvah.
Because he will teach him. But what about pushing away a mitzvah that's in your hands, in your possession right now? A person is stuck in the desert with his father. He owns a kazait matzah. Tonight is Leila Seder. What do? Do you honor your father with a kazait matzah, or you keep it for yourself? What do you say? What's that? You yourself. What about honoring your father? The Gabbai of the Baal Shem Tov is stuck with the Baal Shem Tov in the desert. The Gabbai of the Rambam. The Gabbai of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Is it Gabbai? I don't know. He's stuck with him in the desert, kazait matzah, one kazait matzah. What do? You give it to the Rebbe, to your father, to Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, or you eat it by yourself. Can you sit and eat? Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is going to look at you while you're chewing the kazait matzah. It's actually very good this day. This year came out mamish. It's delicious. Could you imagine? What do you say? Give it, eat it by yourself? Reb Shimon Bar Yochai? No, give it to him. Sha'ar HaTshuva begs to differ. The Sha'ar HaTshuva in Or Chaim twice says, just like Chayecha Koit means you have to first take care of yourself physically and save yourself before you save others, so too Chayecha Koit has to do with spirituality. And if HaKadosh Baruch Hu give you a mitzvah, chas v'sholom, to give it away. What you wanted to say is give it to him, and when you don't have it, Oynes Achmana Patri, what can I do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't have a kazayis matzah. But who asked you to give it away? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the Rebbe or the father to have it, he would give them this mitzvah. So what I'm asking is based on that, based on the Sha'ar HaTshuva. You have a mitzvah in your hands. Why are you pushing it away? Mitzvah bali yadcha al tachmitzena. But
Don't the Hasidim always give to the Rebbe the best?
one kid usually goes,
But they never keep the best.
what's the source?
But the Rebbeim always give it away. I mean, the Hasidim to the Rebbe always give it the best way, don't they?
What do you mean the best way?
If they have something like a big piece of meat, they'll give it to the Rebbe or something like that, won't they? For bracha or something like that? Not necessarily.
Not familiar with that. Don't know. This Shaila, I'm sorry?
No, I'm still bothered with like what I said about Hillel, that each of us, not just on Seder night, we have a mitzvah to teach our children. And how many people are their own child's rabbis? Virtually universally, people send their sons.
Yeah, there's a concept in halacha called en danin efshar me'i efshar. Since it's not possible for most people to be their child's rebbe, because a person goes to himself to learn, he goes to work, and he can't be with his kid all the time, or he's just not a suitable rebbe for his son. So there's such a thing called send him out to somebody else who can do it.
Naturally.
But here it can be done. He is right here in my house. Why should I send him away? This Shaila came to the Aderet. Who's the Aderet? Rabbi Eliyahu David Rabinovich Teomim, the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, about 95, 100 years ago. And he says, send him away. 2 points. Why? V'higatat lebincha is not necessarily to your son. A person who doesn't have children, he can't fulfill, or for whatever reason, this year he is without his children. He can't fulfill v'higatat lebincha. He can't say it to his wife, and his wife will say it to him. Chazal say even tu talmidei chachamim. They know everything by heart. They still are commanded to say the words of the Haggadah. So v'higatat lebincha, Chazal explains, diber hakasu ba'oive. Normally, a father transfers this information to his son, but when there isn't a son there, he still does the mitzvah. So it's not that we're taking away the mitzvah. You're going to fulfill it in a different way. When you by yourself, you still do the mitzvah. You say the Haggadah. That's v'higatat lebincha. Normally, you say it to your children. But if one is not zoichet to have children, or they're not around, he is still doing the mitzvah. But when you're sending it to the grandparents, you're fulfilling their mitzvah of simchas yontif. You're not losing out. And therefore, he said in that case, send them to the grandparents.
Is this valid for Pesach Sheni also?
Pesach Sheni, there is no mitzvah, v'higatat lebincha. Pesach Sheni, you can actually drive to the grandparents and spend time with them.
But the actual mitzvah, when you have that mitzvah right there, for the father to...
I'm not pushing it away. V'higatat lebincha just means say over the words of the Haggadah. Normally, to your son if he's present, and if he's not present, you say it to yourself, you say it to your wife. The Chiddush is, v'higatat lebincha means diber hakasuv ba'hoive. Normally, the Torah speaks in people's language. Normally, you're going to speak it, you're going to say it to your son. So the Chazon Ish didn't fulfill this mitzvah? He didn't have children. He never fulfilled this mitzvah? Of course he did, every single year. How? He said it to whoever was present. Tu talmidei chachamim. One person by himself says it again and again, and that is the kiyum of the mitzvah. The Abu Dham says the time that you say Shechianu, in the beginning of the Seder, you have to have in mind for all the other mitzvahs of the night, you're saying it Kiddush, but you have to have in mind Yetzias Mitzrayim, eating the matzah. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach would actually declare the beginning of the Seder, Rabbi Yisai, have in mind to be Yotzei, not only now, the Shechianu and the Kiddush, have in mind that it should cover all the mitzvahs of the night. But we should ask. The Magen Avraham says the same thing about Megillah. Last month in Purim, he says, when you say Shechianu and Megillah, have in mind for the other mitzvahs. Mishloach Manos, Matanos La'Evyoini, the Seudas of Purim. Why didn't the Magen Avraham say this here? The Abu Dham wrote it. Great. But the Magen Avraham only felt it's necessary to write it in Purim. Why not in Pesach? What's the difference? Is there a difference? Two possible answers. Some explain. The Megillah, I'm saying the Shechianu now, and all the other mitzvahs are not going to be done now, later on. In 2 hours from now, in 5 hours from now. So you have to have in mind to cover all the other mitzvahs because they're not now in front of you. But I'm saying Shechianu at the beginning of Leila Seder, and it's supposed to cover everything else that I'm doing tonight, right here, in the same place, within the same time frame. It covers automatically the Shechianu, everything else, and I don't have to think about it. Others explain. The Shechianu of Pesach goes on Kedusha Sayom. And therefore it takes over everything that's going to be included within the day. But Shechianu and the Megillah goes on the reading of the Megillah. So if you're not going to have in mind to cover with it other things, it won't. So on Purim you have to have it in mind. On Pesach you don't have to because automatically it's built into the system. It goes to Kedushas Hayom. That means everything that is included. Can it be that Gedolei Yisrael, the Gedolim of the Gedolim, forgot to eat afikoyman?
The Kiddush, the Bracha is on the Kiddush, so couldn't the same reasoning be done? So the Bracha of the Megillah is on Megillah, so we have to think to cover the other things. But the Bracha on the Kiddush is on only.
It's on the Kiddush, but some explain that it goes on the day, on Kedushas Hayom. What is Kiddush? Sanctifying the day with all the mitzvahs that are included, or that you're doing this mitzvah, but the following mitzvahs will be right there, and then it covers it. Can it be Gedolei Yisrael forgot to eat afikoyman?
Yeah.
Who?
It says that the Igia Zman Shel Shacharit.
Who told you they didn't eat afikoyman? They were just going on and on relating the story.
And then, you know, they forgot.
Who told you? They ate afikoyman and then continue saying Divrei Pesach, Halachos, Nisim, V'Niflaos. Who told you they didn't eat afikoyman?
If they forgot the fact that they were so involved in that, so you could say they were so involved in the fact.
That's your chiddush. I don't want to say like that about Gedolei Yisrael. Chas v'sholem.
They were involved in learning, so different than, you know, something like that.
You wouldn't believe if I told you this story about the Chazon Ish. You know that he forgot to say Kiyashma, was so involved, you wouldn't believe me. But Rabbi Akiva, you believe it. So you also want to add to what the Haggadah is surprising us already. I also probably forgot to say Afitayir Afikom and a few other things. Chas v'sholem. If you have a source, I'll accept it. Im kabbalah nekabel. Balim ladin, yes tshuva.
I was stuck in traffic on Somet Mesubin.
Where was it?
Somet Mesubin.
Who told you that's what they ate?
That's why it's called Somet Mesubin.
Who told you that's where it happened?
Don't know. It's named after the Mesubin.
Who told you that's where it happened? What city did it happen? Where did this take place? 5 to 9 sitting? Bnei Brak. Who told you? Were you there?
It says in the Haggadah.
What does it say?
Bnei
Brak.
Yeah.
Listen to the biggest chiddush you ever heard in your life. The Abarbanel. Abarbanel. Bnei Brak doesn't mean a city. Maybe. Bnei Brak doesn't mean a city. Shulchan Aruch, Taf Ayin Beis and Orach Chaim Seif Beis says, on Leila Seder you have to put the fanciest vessels that you have on the table. The Mishnah Berurah over there brings, I think in Seif Kotan Zayin, that the Maharil, if he had deposits, people took loans from him and the goyim and they give him vessels, he would put them, they would be pretty, he would put them on the table. Comes the Abarbanel and says, Bnei Brak, Banim goes on Lashon of Asiya, and Kli. What does the pasuk say in the end of Yoina? Bin Laila Haya or Bin Laila Avad. The word Ben has to do with Kelim, with Asiya. Barak, what is Barak? Something shiny. The Abarbanel said these Tanaim sat with the most beautiful vessels that they could afford or they had and put them on the table. It doesn't tell us where it happened. It's a chiddush. It's not in Bnei Brak. Bnei Brak means Kelim Naim, beautiful, shiny vessels. Biggest chiddush in the world. No, we normally understand it's in Bnei Brak, and that's where he lived, Rabbi Akiva. But that's the Abarbanel. Back to our question: who forgot to eat afikoymen? Two Gedolei Yisrael, which you wouldn't believe. Sefer HaOira, which is one of the Talmidim of Rashi. I'm quoting a language. Once my Rebbe, who's the Rebbe? Rashi forgot to eat matzahs afikoymen after his seuda before benching. And after he benched, he suddenly remembered. And yet, because he benched, he said, sorry, too late, and he didn't eat afikoyman. He's not the only one. The Beis Yosef brings in Simin Ta'af Ayin Zayin. And you should know, Veda, I found in the Mordechai that Rabbeinu Klonimus, it's one of the Rishonim, once forgot, it's the same I say, forgot to eat afikoyman, and while he's benching, he suddenly remembered. And he finished his bracha. Why? Too late, I forgot to eat it, it's too late now. Tremendous chiddush. You did so well before in the riddles.
The question, when you're talking about the mice and the Bnei Brak, why weren't they with the families? Why were they together, these great rebbeim, who were probably rebbeis of Kehilas?
You should ask a stronger question. One of the people there is Rabbi Eliezer. Yeah? Rabbi Eliezer in Masechet Sukkah, Kafches, I think, says, Meshabeach ani et ha'atzlanin. I praise the lazy ones as if they don't leave their house on Yom Tov. Blazer, you have to practice what you preach. What do you mean? Don't leave your house. Be with your wife on Yom Tov. Where are you leaving? So he himself, after he says, I praise people like that who stay home, he leaves? More than that. Where did he go to? The house of whom? Who lives in Bnei Brak? You said before. Rabbi Akiva. What's the relation between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva? Who's the Talmud? Who's the teacher? Rabbi Eliezer is the teacher of Rabbi Akiva. Not only does he leave his house, he goes to the Talmud. Shouldn't be the reverse. The Talmud should go to his Rebbe. Rabbi Akiva should leave Bnei Brak with all the nice vessels of the Abarbanel and travel with them to the city of Lod. Oilam hafuch haisi. Mamish di pillei ploim. It's the Shaila of the Aruch Laner and others. There's many answers. But the Aruch Laner says, who's Rabbi Akiva? And who are the other people present here? Who are the other people in this Maaseh? Rabbi Azariah. Reb Tarfon? Reb Shua? They're all either Kohanim or Levim, except Rabbi Akiva, he's a convert. The descendants of converts, but everybody else is a Kohanim Levim. And he says this took place, Seder HaTorah says this Maaseh took place the first year after the destruction of Beis HaMikdash. And before Pesach, they felt terrible. What are we going to do? They still remembered last year and the years before, we used to go to Beis HaMikdash. Klal Yisrael would go. How will we be able to continue going, moving forward from here? And they said, in a year like this, there's no Eitzah. The only place that we can go to get some motivation, some encouragement, some hope, is the house of Rabbi Akiva. Why Rabbi Akiva? What does Rabbi Akiva do in the last daf of Masechet Makos? When he walks with the Tanaim outside Kodesh HaKodashim and he sees a fox walking there and they're all crying and he starts giggling. This is great. He says, this is great. Kodesh HaKodashim, a fox. He says, yeah, of course. If I see the prophecy of the destruction being fulfilled in front of my eyes, I know the prophecies of the rebuilding is also going to be fulfilled. Who is Rabbi Akiva? The one who taught us in Brachos Daf Samech Amud Beis. Kol ma de'avid rachmana letav avid. Whatever Kodesh Baruch Hu does, it's always good, even if you don't see it. So if you want to get some encouragement and some glimpse of hope that there is a future, the only place this year that you can go to is the house of Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Eliezer was forced, even though he doesn't like to leave the house in Yom Tov, to leave the house with all the other Tanaim, Kohanim and Levim who served in Beis HaMikdash, and they went now to Rabbi Akiva to get some hope.
But there's a mitzvah that you got to do with Incha.
We said, even if two Talmidei Chachamim are present, that's the mitzvah. The mitzvah is only when the Kodesh Baruch Hu says V'gat al-mincha in the pasuk, Diber hakasu ba'oive. Normally, when you have your son present, so you say to him, and if you don't have kids, or you're stuck in a year without your kids around, you're two Talmidei Chachamim, it doesn't have to be that you always have to say it to your son. You say it to your wife, you can say it to yourself, you can say it to a non-Talmidei Chacham present. It's not a chiyuv to say it to your son. If it was a chiyuv, every son must go to his father and let us say there is no such chiyuv. Every father must travel to his son and let us say there is no such chiyuv. The chiyuv is to relate the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim.
Good, so they fulfilled it themselves. But what about their family?
They also fulfilled it.
How?
Anybody who's above the age of 13, first of all, nobody told you that their families didn't travel with them. It could be that their family traveled with them. It doesn't say anywhere that they didn't, and therefore that refutes, that diffuses all the whole question. But even if not, Rabbi Eliezer left people behind. Who did he leave? His wife, his 15 children, and they all said the mitzvah. It's not a problem. You don't have to say it to your kids. Doesn't mean that's the only way to perform the mitzvah. That's what we said in the previous question. It's the normal way in most families that this happens. But if you travel to your Rebbe, travel to your Talmud, in this case, Rabbi Akiva, you can fulfill that mitzvah as well. There's no chiyuv for kids to be with their father. For fathers to be with their kids. There's no chiyuv like that in Leila Seder. What about a person who has one kid and then he gets married? So he has to come back every year, even though the other side wants him? There's no chiyuv like that. Rabbi said he did so well in the previous questions, and therefore we'll ask another one.
Sorry, if we get to the African, I mean, the whole of the Haggadah is written down. It's a Seder you follow, page 13, break the maths between 2 and so on. It's very hard for me to understand. If you're going through the Haggadah, you're going to go through each step of the Seder. So how can you just, miss out a step? It doesn't. Just can't.
What part of missing out are you missing out?
The African, it says at the end.
If it wasn't a Chiddush, I wouldn't bring it down. And who told you that they had a Haggadah in front of him? When did the printing business start, do you know?
Well, they had a handwritten.
I think 1475, I remember correctly. That's 5 years ago. Rashi is before, and Rabbeinu Klonimus is before.
Well, they had handwritten Haggadah.
Mistama, they knew it by heart. They didn't feel that they needed it. They knew it by heart. Rashi wrote a perush that you think he didn't know by heart. Of course he knew it by heart. He didn't have it in front of him. How could it be? If it wasn't Rashi Rabbeinu Kloni Musa would say a different answer. They had 4 cups of wine. Shiur Chazonish. Strong wine of back then, but it's Rashi Rabbeinu Kloni, so I'm not going to say that. Rabbi Isai, how can it be that a person stole something worth less than a puta? And he has to return thousands of dollars. And don't tell me the value increased. Because the rule is, Kol hagazlanim mishalmim kish'as hagzeila. When you take something, you have to return the value according to the time that you took it. If it was less than a shve puta when you took it, you don't have to return more when you're returning it, even though later on the value of it increased. So how can it be? A person stole something less than a shve puta. That means 5 cents, 2 cents. And now he has to return thousands of dollars. Can it be?
Stealing the African.
So he has to return now thousands of dollars and he stole a puta? That's the case?
He stole less than the shve puta.
Right, less.
Which means, bichlal, you don't have to return anything. And not only do you have to return thousands of dollars. Can it be?
One person steals an African from the other person.
So?
So he...
Afikomen is less than a shve puta? Oh, when was the last time you bought matzahs?
I mean, if one stole something that makes a huge expensive thing,
Less than a shve puta, you don't have to return.
even if it causes the destruction of something that is worth a lot of money.
Correct.
One screw from a car is worth nothing.
That's grama on the car. It's indirect damage. The screw is worth whatever it's worth. You have to return a screw. And even if the screw now is worth, for whatever reason, metal went up and now it's worth millions of dollars, you return one little screw or the value of it.
What if you take
Of the time that you stole.
The whole car like blows up because of it.
Grama, indirect. Indirect damage. Grama benezikin, patu. Can it be, Rabbi saying? It can.
Maybe he did it twice.
So?
So
Less than a shve puta and a less than a shve puta, together it's a puta, right? So give back a puta. Why thousands of dollars? You always give according to the value that it was at the time that the person stole. So how can it be? The chiddush is, a person stole chametz, less than a shve puta, 2 crumbs, 2 minutes before the last time that you can burn the chametz, and he ate it. So it's no longer here in the world. He can't give it back after Pesach and says, here, harei shelcha lefanecha, I gave you back what I stole. He can't, because he ate it and it's no longer here. So why does he have to return thousands of dollars? Because what he did by doing so is he stole a mitzvah. And we learn in 2 places in Shas, Baba Kama Tzadi Aleph, Chulin Pei Zayin Amud Beis, one who steals a mitzvah from his friend has to pay him Asara Zehuvim, 10 gold coins. How much is a Zehov? How much is a gold coin? Most opinions is 8.2 grams of gold. Some say it's only 4 grams. I think that's a lot of money, and it can definitely move up in value. So the Tzitz Eliezer brings the opinion of the Maharam Shik that holds that this obligation, a person who grabs the mitzvah of somebody else, is only if he took the mitzvah and he fulfilled it by himself. The classic example, brought in the Gemara, a person shechted. Once he shechted, a chaya or off, he has another mitzvah now. What is that? Kisui Adam, cover the blood. So somebody quickly came after this guy first shechted, and the second guy comes, and he does the mitzvah of Kisui Adam. He owes him 10 gold coins because he took the mitzvah to himself. Says the Maharam Shik, if you just prevented a person from doing a mitzvah, you don't have to pay him. You did something very wrong, but you don't have to pay him. But the Tzitz Eliezer rejects the Maharam Shik. He proves it from the language of Rashi in Chulin Pei Zayin, that the reason that you have to pay him is not because you took the mitzvah. It's because you prevented him from getting the reward that he was supposed to get for doing the mitzvah. I think the language of the Shulchan Aruch actually indicates more like the Maharam Shik, because the language of the Shulchan Aruch decrees la halacha, Choshen Mishpat. Simen Shin Pei Beis, Kol hamonea mehabalim, milasos mitzvahs aseh shehem re'uim la'aso. Anyone who prevents others, the owner of the mitzvah, to do it, ve'kadam acher ve'asa, and somebody else came and did it, meshalem lebalim yudzehuvi. Lichoira, it indicates more like the Maharam Shik, but I think the Tzitz Eliezer is right. Because it doesn't say that he took it, and he caused others, somebody else came and did it. In other words, there's no more, the opportunity is no longer there. The person who stole the mitzvah has to pay 10 gold coins. But, Bisman hazeh, we cannot, in Beis Din, we can't obligate a person to do this. Why? 2 reasons. Today we don't have Dayanim Smuchim, and we don't judge Dinei Knasos, penalties. And also, in Beis Din, they're only going to take cases of apparent damage, apparent loss. This is something spiritual. We don't exactly understand how to quantify it, and then therefore they don't judge things like this. But there is still a solution for this. Even though in Beis Din they don't take this case, if you go to the house of the person who did this to you and you take 10 gold coins, they can't take it out of your hands. It's mine. Oh, you're saying it's not mine? Prove that it's not mine. In Beis Din they're not going to deal with this. So if you take 10 gold coins, it's yours. So in this case, a person stole 2 crumbs of chametz 2 minutes before the last minute of burning chametz. He took away the mitzvah from the owner. He ate it. It's no longer here. The guy can go to his house and take 10 gold coins worth thousands of dollars. I don't know how much it's worth now. It's definitely going to move up in value. I think gold is in its highest. Some hold it's only in the mitzvah d'oraisa. There's an obligation to fulfill. Some hold not. Rabbi Yisai, what do we do in the Haggadah, Leila Seder, commemorating 4 Lashonos of Geula? Amakoises. That was an easy one. What do we do corresponding to the 4 Lashonos of Geula every single day? 2 answers. Every single day. What's that? It says Zechor Yetzias Mitzrayim. But I want the 4 Lashonos of Geula. Where are they alluded to in the Shema? We do something, Nafka do that, in order to commemorate the 4 Lashonos of Geula every single day. Achidish. Rashi, the end of Pasha Shelach. What do we learn at the end of Pasha Shelach? Tzitzis. Why tzitzis 4 corners? Why not 3? Why not 5? Rashi brings Davka 4 corresponding to the 4 Lashonos of Geula. If that's not enough big of a chiddush, another one. Every morning in Shachis. Ezra Savoseinu. What do we say there? Anyone knows by heart? Anyone davened this morning? Ezra Savoseinu. No? Ashkenazi Sephardi. Seder Sha'ar HaRachamim. It's pretty Sephardi. With a perush called Magid Tzedek. Brings. Moitzi Asirim is keneged. Ve'otzeti. Poide Anavim is keneged. Ve'ga'alti. Oizer Dalim is keneged ve'hitzalti. Ve'oine le'amo be'ez shavam elav keneged ve'lakachti. Every single day, 2 things that we do commemorating 4 Lashonos of Geula. Rabbi Yisai, listen to a question. You never heard anything like this before. You know, a lot of people travel to different places. They take over hotels, they kasher the place, and they have a beautiful Pesach program. Listen to a ma'aseh that happened. There's a group that went in a place somewhere, I'm not going to tell you where, in Chutz La'aretz. There's a place where a lot of hotels, and they do this. They kasher the place. A group of 40 people from Eretz Yisrael. The guy told him, the guy who organized this, told him, I have a lot of experience. I've been doing it for 15 years. 15 years. That was his first year. And as Leila Seder approached, they saw that there's barely any food. The container wasn't released with all the food. He didn't know that you have to pay a certain individual to do that. All they had basically is a lot of maror that he brought, a lot of lettuce from Eretz Yisrael on a plane. But everything else, they're not going to have any food. So the organizers thought he's going to go to the marketplace, he's going to get some fish. It's not going to be enough. It's too late. And it's going to be a terrible, terrible, sad Leila Seder. So they're thinking, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? One of the guys, very creative, said, guys, don't worry. Everything will be okay. The beginning of Leila Seder, I want you to walk with me. It's a 10-minute walk. We can all do it. Good weather. And they did. They went to the next hotel. Nearby hotel. And they told all the guys, you stand here. Don't move. When I raise my hand, you all come with me and we go into the hall when they're conducting the Seder. This guy stood right next to the door and he was listening. The Chazan who's conducting the Leila Seder starts explaining to the tzibur, there's 100 people there, and he says, Rabbi Yisai, this is the bread, the poor man's bread that our forefathers ate in Mitzrayim. Oh, Baruch Hashem, we are a nation of tzaddikim. We are descendants of Avraham Avinu. What was the midah of Avraham Avinu? Chesed, chesed, chesed. Let's all say, Kol dichvin yesei v'yechol. Anyone who is hungry, let him come in. Kol ditzrich. Anyone who needs, come in. Rabbi say, you ready? We're Am of Chesed. We're all about Chesed. Let's do it. And 100 people all start yelling, Kol dichvin yesei v'yechol. As soon as they do, he raises his arm. 40 people barge into the hall and they say, oh, Shkoyach, thank you very much for inviting us. That's so nice of you. And they sit there. And they ate with them. They had a beautiful little Seder. Now the monetary case starts. Motzei Yontef. The people who hosted them, 100 people say, excuse me, you have to pay. Who would invite somebody else to a hotel and pay for them? And the people who came, the 40 people say, what are you talking about? We heard you say, and we heard the one who's conducting the Seder explaining to you, this is all about chesed, let's do it. And you said, okay. Why would you want to charge a guest? We are in need. Anyone who is in need, when they come in and do the Leila Seder with us, we don't have to pay $1. Yes, of course you have to pay. Rabbi Yisai Dayani Mumchim, what do you say?
They should pay themselves.
How much do you want to pay?
You can say
the meal is $150, which majority of it is the steaks, the potatoes, and some of it is the matzah, the karpas, the charoset, the wine. How much do you want to pay? How much do you want to pay? 150 per person?
The other hotel should pay because they've screwed up.
The question is now between the people who ate, then they're going to charge the other people, maybe the other hotel, the organizer of the other hotel. Here, these people who ate, do they have to pay for what they ate or not? Yes. You did! Kol dichvi means I'm inviting anyone who is in need. Anyone.
In your own home. In your own home.
This is my home now.
No, but you don't own the hotel.
So why'd you say it? What is it called dichvi? You're lying? Are you suggesting Klal Yisrael and the hotels are liars?
But you don't own the hotel. The hotelier owns the hotel.
But you see, we had enough food. And you know what? I'll eat a little less as long as I can have a guest. I'm a descendant of Avraham Avinu. Why are you saying kol dichvin? Lip service?
This little Hacham says it didn't have the kavanah when they said it.
Who told you? You want to say they're liars? Tell me, who said that I'm going to invite you for free? What did I say? Kol dichvin, anyone who wants can come. Did I say I'm not going to charge you Motzi Yontef? I'm not denying that I invited you, but I didn't say that I'm going to invite you for free. When did I say that? Kol dichvin yesei v'yechol, in parentheses, bechinam, for free? Doesn't say that in my version of the Haggadah. Does it say in yours?
In the language, usually when we invite someone, it's for free. I never invite someone for free.
When you invite, not when I invite. Usually when you invite, not me. I give him a bill. What's a Shabbos? Where does it say it's going to be for free? It's an expensive meal. It's an hotel.
If you put it up on Avinu, it's saying chesed.
Avraham Avinu didn't charge people? You sure? Did you see Tois's chance in Soita Daf Yud? Chidish. The Tois's chance says, Avraham Avinu would always invite people, and at the end of the meal they would say, so how much do I have to pay? He would say, pay. The food is not for me. The food is for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bow down and say, thank you to Ribbon Shalom. And if they would say, no, we're not in that business, so he would say, oh, really? Okay. It's $452. So what? Where'd you get that from? He says, Luz, this is Beersheba Desert. To bring food to the Beersheba Desert, it's desert rates. It's much more expensive. You know, nobody comes here. Once in a month I get supply. It's very expensive there. No refrigeration here. I have all kinds of techniques to keep it. It's expensive, desert rates. So Avraham Avinu would charge. But only if you didn't want to say thank you to Ribbon Shalom.
If Kol Dichvin, if it was an invitation to come and join you.
So what is it?
No, it would be issued. You'd say it in the shul. You wouldn't say it in your house.
So why do you say it at home? That's a great point. Why do you say it at home? If you really want it to work, before people leave the shul, close the door. Anyone wants to come? We have plenty of room at home. But you don't. You go home, you close the doors, you close the windows, even the shutters and the curtains, make sure nobody's going to hear. Hope nobody heard me. What is that? What is that? Boy say.
It's also after Kiddush. You say after Kiddush. So whoever comes.
So what do you mean? Listen to a Chiddush from Rabboseinu Arishonim. Who are these Rabboseinu? Rashi, in his Perush to the Haggadah. Hamanhig. Ritva. Ra'avan. One of Baalei HaTosfos. We always thought, Kol Dichvin Yeseh V'Yochol means just that. Anyone who wants. They say, Ma pitom. You close the doors and you think you're talking to people from the outside. You know who you're talking to? Your household members, your children. Everybody today didn't eat because we want to eat. Leteavon, the matzah, right? So everybody is hungry. This kid is in the porch. This guy is in his bedroom. Kol dichvin, anyone who wants, we're about to start Leil Seder, come. That's what it means. Who says this? Rashi, Ra'avan, the Manik, the Ritva, all the Rishonim, 4 Rishonim. Exactly the opposite of what we always thought. Pilei ploim. However, the Kolbo and the Abu Dham don't write like that. And it seems that the halacha follows the Kolbo and the Abu Dham. And the Abu Dham says, Kol dichvin yesei v'yeichol. Pesach is expensive. I don't know if this week or last week you were involved in buying the Pesach needs. Pesach is expensive, and not every poor person can afford. And therefore we say, Aniyim, would you like to come? Come over. Kol ditzrich yesei v'yivsach. You're missing tzorchei Pesach? You don't have matzah? You don't have wine? Come to me. I'll give you. So why are you saying it with your door closed? The Abu Dham explains. This was instituted in Bavel. And they kept the doors open. But now he says that we live among the goyim. Most of our neighbors are goyim. It's not shayach to keep the doors open. So we close the doors. But lemaisa, it refers to the anim. And he adds, because chas v'sholom, to think that Klal Yisrael are liars, chas v'sholom, we're not liars. We really mean it. We're inviting all the anim. So,
all the anim, they got their needs supplied.
Really, if they're anim, they don't have. And many times people don't give enough to Kimchat de Pesach, or they gave, but it's still not enough because there's a lot of anim. Many anim are stuck, and they don't have. So what do? We say, anyone in needs, come over. So, Lichoira, the Chok Yaakov says, he brings some Pesach Meubin, that there's actually a minhag. There used to be a minhag that when they say Kol Dichfin, you go to the door, you open the door, and then you say it. Just like Shfoch HaMasra, that you open the door for Eliyahu Hanavi, there's a minhag to open the door when you say Kol Dichfin. Because it really refers to the anim. La halacha, the Rema writes, Or HaChaim Simen Taf Ayin Tes, that who does benching the zimun? De la Seder? Who should do it? The Balabais. Why? Normally you give it to the guest, right? You honor the guest. Why? Because the pasuk says, Tov Ayin Hu Yevoirach, and Chazal learned Hu Yevarech, Tov Ayin, the one who brought guests in, he should do the benching. How is he so Tovain? Because the beginning of the Haggadah, you said any poor person who wants can come over. That means he explained it like la halacha, like the Abu Dham. Kol Dichfin refers to the anim, and since you said it and you're inviting everybody, you're considered Tovain, and therefore you should say the benching. The Sha'ar Tzion writes, brings the Zoya, that the Sfarim writes that it's a big mitzvah to invite an ani to your house on every Yontif, but especially on Pesach, when you say Kol Dichfin, so they both understood Kol Dichfin to mean you're inviting the anim, not to your household members. And especially in our case, that the person saying the Haggadah out loud explained to them, we're about to invite anim, we're descendants of Avraham Avinu. There's a Gemara in Masechet Tainis, Daf Tes. Ula came to Bavel, and he saw clouds indicating there's going to be a major downpour, and he waited, and suddenly, and he announced to everybody, bring all your vessels into the house, it's going to pour. 5 minutes later, the clouds disappeared. Ula said, you know why this happened? Because the Babylonians are liars. What are they liars? What does it mean? The Ben Ish Chai explains, the Ben Yehuda explains. Leil Seder was instituted in Bavel. And that's why Halach Ma'anya, this passage is in Aramaic. And at the time of Ula, the rich people in Bavel were very, very cheap. And therefore he called them liars. You're inviting everybody to come to your house, but you don't really give them anything. And therefore, Midah Keneged Midah, Kodesh Baruch Hu sends you clouds that promise that they will deliver, there's going to be a downpour, but nothing really happens. So he also understood it to mean, Kol Dichvin Yesei V'Yechol means, come over, come and we will give you. Not just come over and you'll sit and watch us eat. We're actually going to share whatever we have with you. Shaila. Reuven comes to Shimon and says, Shimon, we don't have a conclusion yet. Reuven comes to Shimon. Shimon, would you like to have lunch with me? Shimon says, that's so nice, thank you very much. And he goes over and has the best lunch. At the end, Reuven says, okay, that will be $52. Does he have to pay? Does he have to pay? No. Says the Rema, Shulchan Aruch Shel Mishpatzim and Reish Mem Bei Seif Yud Zayin. Shimon has to pay. Pilei ploim. You hear him? I said, Reuven invited Shimon for lunch. Shimon was sure it's free. Reuven at the end says, it's $52. And Shimon says, what do you mean? And Reuven says, what do you think? The steak grows on the trees? The steak is $25. The potatoes, another $8. The bread, the drinks. It costs me money. The halacha is he has to pay. Achidish. The Shach limits it, and Shach says, wait a second, who is Shimon? If Shimon had lunch back at home waiting for him, so the only reason he came here is obviously because they thought it's free. He doesn't have to pay. He is called a yeshlo. He has. He doesn't have to pay. But if Shimon anyways didn't have lunch, so anyways he had to go to the store and buy, so therefore he is called an enlo. He doesn't have. He has to pay.
One should not say, I invite you and I'm going to charge you. If he doesn't say, I'm not going to, if he doesn't say...
Then you don't have a shaila. Then you don't have a shaila. But in the case when you do have a shaila, says the Rema, it's obvious that it costs him money. He has to pay. The Shach comes to defend the Shimon and he says, if he is poor, he doesn't have to pay. But, lichoira, there's a contradiction in the Rema itself. The Beis Yosef and Simen Kuf Kavches brings a shaila that the Rif was asked. There's a guy who raised an orphan in his house for years. He became of age, 18 years old, he left the house. Before he leaves, he says thank you very much to the guy who adopted him and raised him, and then he says to him, you're welcome, you're welcome. By the way, it's $75,000. What's $75,000? Well, you were here for 4 years. $75,000, I'm charging you a family rate. So what do you mean? He says, what do you think? It's a gift? It costs me money. And he says, but I always assume that you're just a nice guy, you're doing chesed. Beis Yosef Paskins, based on the Rif, the shadow was asked to the Rif, he doesn't have to pay him $1. The Rema quotes this, and he says he doesn't have to pay him $1. The Rema says that when you don't know, you have to pay. You weren't aware that Reuven invited you for lunch and is going to charge you, you have to pay. But here he says, no! How does that work? The answer is, there's no stira. An orphan is always viewed as an ani, is a poor person, and therefore he is exempt from paying. If he would be rich, and if Shimon was rich, he has to pay for lunch. But if he is poor, it works very well with what the Shach said. If he is poor, he doesn't have to pay. In fact, the Rema paskins like this in Yoreh De'ah, Reish Nun Gimel Hilchos Tzedakah, and he says, if the orphan is poor, he doesn't have to pay, but somebody who has assets has to pay. In our case, were they poor or were they rich?
Rich.
They're rich. They each spent $4,000, $8,000 on a Pesach program. They are not poor. When you say Kol Dichvin Yesei V'Yechol, who says it's for free? Did I say it's for free? Lichoira Kol Ditzich Yesei V'Yifsach. That means I'm going to give you the needs of Pesach. So I'm going to give you the matzah, the kazait matzah. I'll give you maybe a little to drink from thy wine and charoises and maro. I think since they are poor, kazait matzah, you say, you know what, we'll give you for free. What's a kazait matzah? Kazait matzah alone, only not the two more. Kazait, that you have to do for Pesach. How much does that cost? You know, that's on us. But everything else, we didn't say it's going to be for free. And since the majority of the money that we said before goes on the meal, Lichor, they would have to pay. The rest of the meal they would have to pay. The kazais, matzah, no, that will give them for free.
You invite somebody for Shabbat or for Yom Tov, then, you know, he doesn't pay, surely you don't expect him to pay, and he doesn't pay.
You also don't charge him at the end.
Yeah.
There's such a thing called umdena. It is clear that you invited me for free. It is clear, otherwise I wouldn't come. Based on the Rema before, we should say he has to pay. If he is poor, then for sure he is exempt. We saw it from the Rema in different other places. Based on the Rema, if in Motzi Shabbos he would charge him, he has a problem. It's a chiddush. Let's end with one thing. Were we slaves in Mitzrayim? So what's the line that we say to corresponding to that in the Haggadah? Avadim ayinu lepaor Mitzrayim. Everybody, 12 tribes, they were all slaves?
Not
Levi, no. Anybody here Levi?
Yeah, he's a Levi.
Do you say this in the Haggadah?
Barry.
You're a Levi? Do you say Avadim ayinu lepaor Mitzrayim? But you weren't. Can a Levi, should a Levi say Avadim ayinu? Kohanim as well. Kohanim come from the tribe of Levi. You're saying I was a slave. I'm an Arev to the one who was a slave. You're not a slave. What's that?
You take things of, even if we're not, you take things of the whole time. So even if it's a lady, he takes it.
Why don't you say my brothers were slaves in Mitzrayim and I felt so bad? You're saying I was a slave, but you're a Levi, you're a Kohen. How can you say that? Avadim ayinu. Not true.
it says Shelo Asani Goy, right? Or things like this. It's not a similar thing.
No! You know what the Gaon Mevila says why you say Shelo Asani Goy? When you go to sleep, what happens to your neshama? Goes to recharge. HaKadosh Baruch Hu does an unbelievable chesed. And the accounting department and the distribution, Neshama's distribution department is so exact that Baruch Hashem, thank you Kadosh Baruch Hu, that this morning again you gave me back my Neshama and not Neshama of a Goy. So it's true for every single day. Chidish, Gaon Mevina. So you want to say you're gonna skip over that this year?
No, I'm going to say you still weren't completely free to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Oh. But you say Avadim Ainu leParo b'Mitzrayim. Were you slaves to Paro?
Maybe you could only do certain things. I'm not sure what they were doing.
Excellent, excellent. 8 different answers. First answer, says the Haggadah, they weren't slaves, but they couldn't leave Mitzrayim. Couldn't leave, so slave a slave. Says the Haggadah more. The spiritual, that's what you meant, I think. The spiritual enslavement that Klal Yisrael were enslaved with hurt them as well. The Chaim Bris says, there's an Eved Mamesh, and there's a person who has a name of an Eved, even though he's not subjected. But any single second, Paro can say, okay, you too. So he's like an Eved. The Muadei Kodshecha says they weren't enslaved, they didn't have to carry heavy loads, but they still have to pay taxes, heavy taxes, like an Eved. Whatever Paro asks, they have to fulfill. So they are an Eved. More than that, the Muadei Kodshecha says, a Kohen today is for sure a Kohen? What is he?
Not sure.
Kohen Chazaka. A Levi today is for sure a Levi? No. Sorry. Nothing personal. What are you? Chazaka. Who says you're really a Levi? Who says? More than that, maybe in previous rounds, previous Gilgulim, you weren't a Levi. Do we have any examples of that? Moshe Rabbeinu was a Levi, and he was incarnated in Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, who was not a Levi. Amram, the son of Levi, was reincarnated in Chizkiah. Chizkiah, the king of Yehuda, is now a Levi. So by Gilgulim, it can be that somebody was a Levi before or was not a Levi before, and it changes. And also today is a Levi's own Levi Chazaka. Levi Chazaka, who says you're a real Levi? The Ramban says that when you see the numbers, how they increased the numbers, all the Shvatim, everybody, there was such an inflation, except for Shevet Levi. Shevet Levi didn't grow so much. Why is that? Why didn't they grow? Says the Ramban, because they weren't enslaved. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that the people were enslaved, so he compensated by Vayishutzu, Vayibu, Vayatzu, Imod Me'od, they increased the numbers, but Levi wasn't a slave. Mimele, that's the slavery. I was like an Eved in Mitzrayim because I was tortured as well that I can't have a big family. Like a slave, I was tortured. But the seventh answer is, what about Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro? I think that's what you guys alluded to as well. Noise Ba'olim Chaveiro, when my friend is a slave, I feel like a slave as well. I see him carrying, he's tortured, I feel the pain. So I'm like a slave. And the best answer perhaps is the 8th answer in Derech Sicha, Maran Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal, and he says, it says in the Medish, on the words, Lechu lesliv lo yisechem, that everybody was enslaved, including Shevet Levi. Mimele, Kushya me'ikar aleisa, there is no question, because according to this Medish, Shevet Levi was also a slave in Mitzrayim, and Mimele, we don't have a question. Acheinu kol beis Yisrael nesunim, בצר ובשביה. העומדים בין בים ובין ביבש ובין מתחת ליבש נתן עוזר מקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווח ומאפלה לאוירה ומשיעבוד from being slaves לגאולה along with all of us השתה בעגלה ובזמן קורי ונאמר אמן פסח כשר ושמח